so much for taking the time to talk with me today about Demiplane. To start off, the simple question: what is Demiplane, and how did it get its start?
Yeah, so Demiplane is the digital home for tabletop role playing. When we were starting out, we saw a real gap between the amount of game masters that were out there and the amount of players that were looking to play games. And what we originally did was we built a matchmaking algorithm to connect these players and game masters. And we realized pretty quickly that once they found groups, they were all really focused on one game. And so we saw a huge opportunity to open that up into other game systems. And we started to ask ourselves, why is it that folks don't want to go out and play other games? And it's because really learning a new game is a real effort. And we wanted to make that as easy as possible. So that's when we decided to really jump in and say, let's try to find a way to use technology for all the things that it's great at and help out the tabletop role-playing game space and bring something that really works. And so we found somebody that was really, really good at that, and we thought complemented our team well. His name was Adam Bradford, and he founded D&D Beyond. And Adam came over, and we said, yeah, we think that there's, through character tools, you can really educate people how to play new games. And since then, the rest is sort of history. We have, today actually we have five tools on the system. We're looking at least a dozen more next year that we're looking to bring out, and we have about 30 signed total. So we're really geared up to start bringing new games to the system. But we're excited. It's been a lot of fun. The team has really been working hard. We started with Pathfinder, and it took us about a year, really 10 months about to get Pathfinder, get our hands around it. And since then, I mean, even in the past 45 days, we've released 3 or 4 games. So it's really changed, but we've really learned a lot. And I think what's been helpful is that we've seen all the different ways. Like, we're fans of the industry, so we all like different types of games. Having those people on our team has really been awesome.
What is it that you guys are doing over here at Demiplane that you think really sets it above the rest of the digital TTRPG tools?
Yeah, I think when you look at this space, there's this really interesting spot that I'm really happy that we've been able to start to fill. And that spot has to do with this exchange between the digital way of playing and the in-person way of playing. And sometimes people will say things like, oh, I play online. And I don't think people necessarily have to choose to play online and be sitting at home. I think that there's a digital aspect that you can have at the table. So at Demiplane, we say, are they playing in person or at a distance? And that changes how we think about things. If they're playing at a distance, our digital solutions might do this. But if they're playing in person, we need to make sure that the digital solution does that, because we think that the education of the game and the way you learn the game and the way you play the game can be helped by technology no matter where you are. And what's really interesting about Demiplane is 45% of our users are using our tools at the table. So when everyone else was saying, hey, like COVID really was booming and we had a lot of people playing the game and they were all playing on Zoom or playing online, those people are continuing to play their game. Now some of them are continuing to play, at their computers, but others are playing in person. And we've really been, what I've seen is we've really been able to keep people in that kind of connected to Demiplane, whether they're in person or not. And that's been what I think I'm the most proud of, is the team always sits down and thinks really hard. Hey, this works great on your computer, but like, how does it work on an iPad? How does it work on a tablet? How does it work on a phone? Because we know that not everyone that's using our app, actually 1 out of every 2 people, are not going to have a laptop in front of them. They're going to be using it to play something at the table with their real dice. And that really informs how we design things.
To see how it works, I know that you guys have just launched
Great.
Candela Obscura today of the time of recording. That's the new horror RPG from Darrington Press, the publishing arm of Critical Role. What was it like getting this process set up as well with Darrington Press?
It was awesome. The look and feel of Candela Obscura in a lot of ways has been set well before the game was announced. We watched every episode and continue to watch every episode. When it's a work task to watch, 6 hours of Candela Obscura, it really limits the amount of emails you can get to. Because that was the last chapter ended and it was like crazy long. But for us, it became this journey of how do we take this concept of, a game that's about, discovering the unknown, and it's accessible, right? Like it's horror, but it's almost like an accessible horror where you can come in and learn, how to play the game. But there's a lot of spooky to it. Like, it's still scary. You still want to make sure that you're your storyteller, your game masters can go in and spook people. And so that for us was something that we really wanted to capture, was that look, feel, and the way that the game was played. So we leaned really heavily throughout Candela Obscura on this concept of creating your investigator, which are the character tools that naturally fits. But we like this idea of being able to, like, you are being brought into Candela Obscura, the actual organization, and so everything was about that. So first, to get started, really simple landing page, but we knew right away that there were going to be folks that, they just want to jump in and they just want to see what it's like. And so we had a great time working with the Critical Role team and the Darrington Press team, pulling some ready to play characters. But we have a fun stable of actual character sheets from the show that are coming in. So this is Augie, who's played by Ashley. And when we pop in, we'll load up Augie here. This is from the show. This is literally the junior lore keepers from Critical Role kind of handed over the scroll digitally and said, here you go. And we were able to take that and be like, okay, this is the sacred artifact. How do we treat this the right way? And so this is Augie. So as you go through and you want to learn how to play the game, you can jumpstart. So that took us a couple seconds to load this up. Like, you're playing Candela Obscura right now as Augie. And so that was something that was really, really important to us. And as a player, you can go in and you can play as Augie. So you can click here and, roll stats. So we're going to roll a control roll. We show you the results here. So you can dive in and play, or you can save Augie to your actual character sheets, and you can edit it. You can maybe make adjustments, or you can change some of the skill distributions, or where you set points. You can move them along the illumination track, whatever it might be. But that's something we thought was really important, just getting people in as fast as possible.
For someone who has just immediately jumped in, if they're not sure what stuff does, is there additional resources to assist in that?
Well, Andy, that's a fantastic question. It's so what we have here is, for each of these, and this is true across all the game systems, we have a process that we lean really heavily into, and we call it progressive exploration. And what that means is, if a player wants to explore and find out, what does nerve mean? Or I want to take an action, but I'm not sure, it's not my turn yet, but it's going to be, what do I want to do? We want to make sure that that's something you can do on the device that you have in front of you without having to move around. And so if we wanted to learn about nerve, you click on it, and here we have notes about nerve, and it tells you everything about nerve here. We talk about what drives are. If you need to leave a note, like let's say that something happened and you need to remember that, I have an extra nerve to use one time for free. Maybe that was something that was decided at the table. That will stay with your character sheet as you move forward. And then the other thing that we can do is, we know that sometimes the rules of tabletop role-playing games aren't followed. It's just part of the story, part of the game. And so you can modify those. You can make adjustments. You can set, how much do you actually have? We have 2 drive here. We'll set it to 4. Now I've got 6 extra. So I've got a total of 6. So that's how many I have. I'm 4 new plus the 2 more. And you can set that up. You can reset it, and it goes back, and you're all set. So you can always make sure to remember where you were. But this concept of being able to learn is something that we think is really important, because what happens is you really have 2 opportunities to learn when you're, really that's like 3 opportunities to learn when you're playing these games. One, when you purchase the content, you sit down and you read it. Some of these books are like 400 pages long, not this one. The second time is when you're building your character. You want to understand the relationships between abilities and gear and actions, like, just because you have to go through that process to learn. That's when you learn these games. And then the third is when you're actually playing it with your friends, and you're able to go through and see what other people are doing, and also research what you want to do. And you have someone that's guiding the story and telling you, what the right choice is or how they might change it. And what we do is we take that learning process and we try to shift it into the character building and the playing as much as possible, because for us, playing is really the most exciting way to learn. And that's something I think we do really well for all the partners that we work with.
It looks like this is a very stylized screen specifically for Candela to fit that theme to. Oh
yeah, it got a fun little so each of our systems has a different theme, different themes they can use. So the lighthouse is a big one, and then this is our light mode, so shield your eyes, but we also have this nice parchment look and feel here. And there's other game systems we work with. So we just released Marvel, And Marvel's themes, there's a lot of superheroes. I think we have over 160 superheroes, and we're getting over 50 more in a few days. And so there's over a dozen themes there, just because when people have their own character, they want them to look the same. So we always try to launch with a handful of themes, and then we do fun different things like on Vampire. We had a Twitch stream for our dev updates, and the community voted on what they wanted, and so that one was just more blood. They just wanted a vampire to have more blood on the theme. There's literally a theme that's just blood. And then for Pathfinder, they had a really fun one where it was about it was a original character, a sketch character sheet. And so what would it look like if you actually drew out your own character sheet? So for Pathfinder, we have a hand-drawn character sheet that you can switch that tab to, and it's a lot of fun. So it really just provides us a way to be creative in another perspective, and something that we like to see. And this stuff works really well across all the devices too. So each sheet is different. So every game has its own rules, and we take a lot of pride in that. Some games have a lot of rules, and some games have some really key rules that are really driven throughout the entire process. But each sheet is unique. We're customizing these sheets and these builders to each game. For us, what's important is we do have developers that work for us. And so these are the folks that they know a lot about tech. They know a lot about the platform behind it. They make sure everything scales really well, and they make sure that what you see here for Candela Obscura is available to you when you want it to be. And so that's one part of the team. The rest of the team just really loves these games. And so what we spent time building was a platform for people who love playing these games and know a thing or two about computers to be able to build out these game systems. So what's happening today is that people who love these games that are not, formal developers, they are sitting down and building out these game systems. And so we can have 3 or 4 people working on, 2 game systems at once, and they're asking questions from each other and learning, and how do these dice work, and can we use these mechanics over here, and what about this, and what about that? So they're actually learning from each other. And then if they have a question or a technical limitation, then that group that's doing the heavy development work, they say, hey, we want to be able to do this crazy thing. Is that possible? And usually the response is not today, but maybe tomorrow. Let's see. And then they run it down and bring that back to the group. So we have a really collaborative development process right now that helps us pin down, all the different types of games that we're working on. And it's worked out really well. It's really helped us grow. These are the games that we've announced. Nexus is a Nexus for so far. Not all of them have the character tools, but these are the 10 that we've announced. We're going to start building tools for these, and there's a few others that I mentioned in the pipeline that we haven't announced yet.
When it comes to additional systems, is that stuff that you're seeing people coming to you? Are you reaching out to people? Is there a certain vibe, or are there certain mechanics that you guys look for when you're considering who to reach out to?
So we started out reaching out to folks early on, and then that shifted, and we got a lot of interest, and then we had to make sure that we were able to deliver the goods. Is what I used to say to the team, is let's make sure we can deliver the goods before we sign anyone else on. And so we've been really pleased with how this has started to work out, and the pace that we've been able to to bring things to life. So now that that's done, we're going back to the folks that came to us previously, and asked for, hey, would you be interested in doing this for our game? And so we're just going back there now, which is really exciting. The other thing that's super exciting is we release these character tools. It's frankly really fun to see people come back and say, have people ask for them. Hey, what have you considered doing this? Or I think somebody on our Twitch stream today said, Adam, blink twice if the next game is this one. And so it's a fun thing, to be able to get into that and see people get excited. It makes us excited. It makes us excited to work on the next game system. But we've started to shift back into the, we're feeling really confident about being able to, to deliver these to the market. And so, touch on some folks that we said we'd come back at the end of the year, and here it is, and we're ready to roll. So it's been good.
You've worked with Darrington Press now for the Tal'Dorei campaign, Setting Reborn, for the 5th
Yep.
edition Nexus, Candela Obscura. Is it safe to assume that we'll see future Illuminated Worlds systems, or potentially Daggerheart, being on Demiplane?
I am not able to say whether that is the case.
Should I ask Adam to blink twice?
And Adam is not on this call, so if you got a camera, he doesn't know. What I can say is that Peter, so not Demiplane formally, but Peter had an opportunity to really dive into Daggerheart with Spencer and the team, and boy, it was a blast. Like that game was so much fun, and I can't wait to see them bring that out and start to show people that, because that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to see, and games like that, make everybody really excited to see them come out. And so yeah, we're really excited about it. It's going to be a great platform, great system, excuse me, and yeah, we're excited to see you come out. But yeah, no official comment there.
For something like 5th edition, I know that you've got a whole bunch of third-party publishers already involved.
Yep.
Are you going to be continuing to expand with either indie creations or even adding in homebrew support?
Yeah, it's a lot this is a really important one for us. So as we go through and look at, all the different systems that exist, like even for Cobalt Press's stuff, there's stuff in this Tome of Monsters book that is totally new, right? And so, what gets really interesting is when you think about all the third-party publishers and you think about homebrew for the average person, that line starts to blur. In a lot of ways, the ability to create is something that's done at the table, whether it's in a boardroom or whether it's in your basement, really. That happens all the time, and sometimes it happens really quickly. So one of the things that we said, and that really the leadership group at Demiplane was Travis and Adam and I, we came together and said, we are not going to release 5e until homebrew is done. Those things have to come together. It's really, really important. And when we release homebrew, we want to do it for everything. We want to do it for the whole system, the whole platform. We love playing 5e. It's a great way to get back in. If you haven't played in a while, it's a great way to start. It's a way to jump into the system and learn how to play. And so, so we love the system. But we said, homebrew is really, really important. And so now that we've got, we've proven to ourselves and to really everybody else that we can get these games moving at a pretty quick pace while respecting all of the awesome creativity that goes into making them. That really brings us up to a spot where, like, hey, I think working on something that helps people create, what they want to at the table, that opens up a real opportunity, and that's what we're focusing on next. And it's some interesting challenges, right? Like, Ghostfire is a great partner here. So as we think about like Grim Hollow and some of the things that they have in their other source material that we haven't looked at yet, they change the game in some really cool ways. And some of that stuff isn't going to work with other game systems. So it's not just homebrew because it's fun. It's also like, how do we make sure that if you pick this option, that by default, it's probably not going to work with these over there. But if you want to, you could try, right? Like, how do you make sure you manage that? Well, technically, you shouldn't do that, but it's the tabletop, so you can. How do you make sure you're balancing that digitally? And that's really, for us, what makes 5e really unique is that, when you have a single publisher, like if Candela Obscura decides that there's going to be a rule that changes, or Darrington Press, decides that there's going to be a rule for Candela Obscura that changes, but only in this one specific instance, that's something that's, you can structure in a certain way. But when it's a single publisher amongst many other publishers that does something unique, that's what makes that publisher unique, and they're really proud of it, and we often love it. That's why we are happy to have them on the platform. And so we want to make sure to highlight that without, taking away from anyone else's work. And so that's been, for us, that's the real challenge, is making sure that you're emphasizing it. We don't view it as gating. We view it as really like giving everybody's unique creative stint an opportunity in the sun, because that's why we love doing this stuff, is to do something really, really cool. So yeah, that's going to be the next challenge, and we're very excited for it.
So I've seen what it looks like to just go through the library and what it looks like from the player angle. But for a DM who is wanting to log into Demiplane to run a game, what does that look like for them?
Yeah, so right now it's really interesting. So we have a group system where you can jump in and start an adventure portal. And that adventure portal is really, it's like our version of getting together and playing online if you're not able to play in person. And so for our groups that we have here, I'm in a few of them. I promise I do work. I promise I do work. Okay?
No, this is all field research. This shows
yes,
how much
I
you've been
promise
thinking,
I do work.
actually.
But if we go through and pick on these, this is where you can come in and you're playing online. You have chat. You have journal entries. You can bookmark things. You have your party here. All different stuff you can go through. So this is really the start of the groups. We have our chat here where we're messaging about a few things. Here we have a little bit of a tie-in between the way that I like to play. So the yellow in this case is me. This is Peter's score. This is my experience and what I like to play as. And the blue is how the game scores. It's how the game master scores this game. And so this is how we found each other, was because I have a match score, they have a match score. It was just a natural fit, and we started playing. And so this is essentially, we call this a group. It's what the game master will see if they're trying to find players on Demiplane. But what we don't have yet is a dedicated game master version of the GM screen or the character sheet, and that's something that's in the works that we're in the early design stages for. But it's been pretty interesting to me, so like I was learning how to play Avatar Legends, and it was the first time, but I wanted to be the game master. And so I spent a lot of time learning the game, and we had been working on it. And all of my players had character sheets and I didn't. And so the first game I ran, I felt like the characters were leading the game because I didn't have their sheets. Like I had the book and the source material in front of me, but they were making decisions faster and coming to conclusions faster than I could. And so the second game that we ran, I took all their sheets and I literally had them on tabs. And as they were asking questions, I was answering things at the same pace as they were. And sometimes I was planning ahead a little bit because you're able to keep that stuff here. And right now, that's at least personally how I've been running things. The Game Master is you finally have a way to can hear with the groups, or if you have them just on a tab, if you're playing in person, you can keep track of that stuff. And you're just a refresh away from figuring out how close you are to kill them, in the game, how many hit points they have. But that's really for us what's been eye-opening is, wow, like the players are able to make decisions about how the game works, rules is written pretty quick, quicker than we're used to on some of these game systems. We really need to prioritize the game master. And that was a surprise for us. Like we knew the game master was obviously a key part. Of course you do. But like we didn't realize how much on some of these game systems is really going to give players a step up, which we think is good. Like it helps because you spend less time in the trying to figure out the answer and more time, trying to have fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So I do want to quickly follow back on this adventure style thing. Is that something that's made up? Like, do you have a personality quiz on the site, or is that just like something that or?
Yeah, we actually do. So it's kind of funny. Well, there is a process where you literally have a slider. A really good friend of mine wrote the Music Genome Project for Pandora Music Radio, basically the radio station Pandora Music, and or the online radio. And they worked on it for classical music, and we got together. And even before Demiplane started, we had said, "Hey, like, I wonder if you could do this for tabletop role playing. Like, I wonder if this was possible." And so what we did was we went through. Here's my profile. Let me take a look here, and see. Yeah, so here's my play style. And so we broke out and found 6 key areas that when we were kind of doing our quick research, that we found like, hey, these areas like really matter. And one of them is combat. Like, do you like conflict? Is that something you like working through? Do you like puzzles? How do you feel about social intrigue, player-driven story? And that's different than role-playing, right? And role-playing and player-driven story is different than homebrew. And so there's some really unique perspectives here. But what we basically allow people to do is go through and make adjustments as they see fit. And then that basically sets themselves up for, okay, like this is how much I like role-playing. I like to stick to the rules. I'm really into player-driven story. I like social intrigue. I'm not very good at puzzles, and I'm really solid at hitting things. And now that's my profile. And as I go look for other groups on Demiplane, we'll prioritize games that fit that type of play and game masters that play like that to you.
I'm gonna start running that for all of my session zeros, regardless.
Well, and it's a great way just to say, like, really simply, hey, how do you like to play? And then that helps a lot, and so it's just a really fun way to get to know people. And then this gets stored at your profile level, and you can choose to to share it or not. And if you do, someone can go in and just see like, okay, what is this person like? But all of our stuff there is opt-in, so it's not like people can just pop in and see it and they're sneaking on you. It's all opt-in.
So, I mean, this has been a fantastic showcase. It sounds like you guys have so much on the horizon as well. Are there any key aspects of Demiplane that you think that that you haven't had a chance to really hit in our chat?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you. I would say the one thing that I'm the most pleased with right now, when it comes to helping folks get into the game is really it's the way that we've approached character building.
Hmm.
And we talked about the sheet. We talked about this is what it looks like when you're Augie, and how to play through it. But for me, one of my favorite things is really just diving in and getting started. And so, for us, if we go through, we'll have a long list here. This is getting pretty long, that you can have diving in. But for us, it comes down to like, how do I make the choices that I need to? And then what are the fun things I can do on the side? And so, really for me, this is something that we felt really important is we walk people through the choices that they make. And this process is the same across all the games. And it's not because the games are the same. That's not at all what it is. What it is if we have a similar process across all the games, then people don't need to learn that process every single time. Instead, they can understand what a game naturally chooses as something that they want to focus on. So, for example, if we just go through here and say that our name is Peter, and we pick a picture here, when I go to Roll and Specialty, right now for Candela Obscura, we have these awesome cards. This is the only game that pulls in this type of like tarot-based character, card visualizations. And so this is entirely unique to Candela Obscura. And what I love about this is that it really hits home this concept of like what the game is like. If you don't know anything about Candela Obscura, you've learned a lot just by clicking on this first button, which is, what's a Roll and Specialty? Well, I know a lot now. And so we are able to literally every step of the way, you can teach someone what it is that they need to make a decision for, and it reinforces what they're getting into along the way. So here's the ability scores. You can go in here. You can see there's options. We try to have content available for free with all of our partners. So it's something that we think is really important is being able to allow someone to jump in and play the game or at least experience it before they make a purchase. And then if they want to, they can do so either right in line here in the builder, or they can go back and look at the library like we saw, and they can make a purchase there. But this was something that for us, we thought was just a really unique thing that helped us take many, many, many games across the whole world of tabletop role-playing games and bring it down to a process of, hey, we're going to help you guide through what's important and get you into that character sheet as soon as possible so you can start playing. And it's a really unique balance, right? Like some people talk about character creation like it's all about efficiency, and that to me isn't it. Like it's not about just efficiency. It's about helping you learn what makes the best part of a game the best as fast as possible, so that you can spend time really hitting that home. And some of these, like even this concept of these actions, I mean, there's such a visual appeal to Candela to understand how to drives work, how to resistances work, like taking these right off of the character sheet and putting them in here, whether it's on your iPad or your phone, and knowing that like this is how you're going to play the game. This is your controller. As you're thinking about how to do things, that's something that's really important, and we can double that down into the character sheet as well. And so it's a lot of fun. I think that's the only thing that we didn't talk about was we spend a lot of time making sure that for every game it does bring a level of polish and taste into the platform, as opposed to trying to fit it into a formula that that's just beat over the head for folks. And that I think is really what we're seeing people really like, is that it feels like the game. And if we can get that from the get-go, there's already a hurdle because it's online. There's already a little bit of a challenge because you might feel disconnected from actually feeling the page. And our job is to try to make that pretty seamless.
I'm someone who uses digital tools all the time, but I'd love to know if you could give a message out there to those who continue to stick with pen and paper. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but kind of what would you tell them to let them know how Demiplane may add more to their experience?
Yeah, I would say that for me, if you're really into pen and paper and that really tactile feeling of playing the game, what Demiplane allows you to do, maybe even a little jokingly, is you get to do it at work. You can start to explore all these different options that previously may have been, unbound, or something that you didn't see in front of you. Some of our game systems have, over 3,000 spells. And what we found was that people who previously were really, really focused on the books, they were discovering options that literally weren't available until they started looking at it in the tool set. And then it became it's not just the options. I found out that there's source books that I didn't even know were available because they weren't at the game store or something else. So they're actually using the tool set, the character tools, and the digital companion as a discovery mechanism, as opposed to just a playing mechanism. And that to me is, it depends on the game. Not every game system is like that. But to me, it just comes down where it is a companion. Like we view it as a companion. It's a way to explore the game and it's a way to bring it in. And as I said before, 1 out of every 2 players are using it at the table. It is not our job to replace that physical play. That's we want to really help it. And we always ask ourselves, what's the best part of video games that we can bring to this industry without making it a video game? Like, how can we make sure that it keeps that core feeling of being a tabletop game? And that's something, like I said before, we take really seriously. But the discovery has been really big. That's the one thing I would say that we've heard the most from people who say, hey, I've never used these tools, or I don't like using these tools, but it's usually a sense of discovery or something that they didn't know existed. And, maybe they'll take it back and keep playing in person, but then they'll come back when they want to build a character or explore something else. That's where we know that we've got something, that we've done something for someone that, may not have normally used a tool like this. And these are just comments that, we read online, right? Like they energize our team so much. And so we love seeing comments like this. And then there's a lot of, plenty of constructive comments too. And we take those in and we work those as hard as we can.
Thank you so much for taking me through Demiplane and everything that you guys are doing in terms of Candela, Obscura, and 5e, and Pathfinder, and Marvel, and definitely looking forward to all of the announcements that you guys have coming up in the future. I'm sure that my mailbox will be receiving a variety of updates in the upcoming.
We'll do our best. We will absolutely do our best. We'll do our best. If you're annoyed, maybe we're doing a good job.